What is Real Talk? Real Talk is going to be the portion of the Vi.Ve the Revolution LLC's YouTube channel where I just talk. Consider it a video log of sorts. I'll be doing artwork in Maya or Photoshop or whatever while you hear me talking. I won't be editing it much, mostly just fixing segments where I babble incoherently, since I do that from time to time. Topics that I'm planning on covering in the future: general art tips, exercises to practice drawing skills, what it's like to be a freelance artist, stretching a tight budget, specifically for artists, um, and just generally anything like that, tips, tricks, survival for the up-and-coming freelance artists. Um, if somebody can point out another YouTube channel that does that, cool. I won't have to worry about doing these much, but otherwise, I feel like it's information that I would have liked to had, and that I see a lot of people struggling with. Uh, Alright, so, for this pilot episode, episode 0, episode 1, haven't decided exactly what I'm going to call it yet. What is the revolution? That's a question I get a lot. Some people are just being snarky. Hey, what's the revolution? I mean, I named the company Vi.Ve the Revolution LLC for pretty good reasons. Some people actually do legitimately ask, and those are the people that actually listen to my dream, essentially, what the goal of the revolution is. And so this is kind of a video I can direct them to and not have to repeat it thousands of times over the course of this company's life. So what is the revolution? The revolution is, like I said, my dream. It's the embodiment of everything that I see that my vision of this company can potentially help with and correct in the region of freelance artwork. Specifically, the difficulty with which a freelance artist starts and the difficulty with which a freelance artist has to adjust to and learn the business side of being an artist instead of just doing artwork and practicing their craft. Back many hundreds of years ago, I guess most recently only a couple hundred years ago, there were art dealers. It wasn't this elitist, snooty, high society art that we currently have, where unless your paintings or whatever are selling for millions of dollars, you're pretty much on your own. A lot of the times it was successful tradesmen who would flat out just, as a favor to a friend who did artwork, or because they were fans of the artist themselves, would try to sell the artist's artwork and usually accepted payment in the form of artwork. Usually they were art collectors themselves, so having, say, Rembrandt or Van Gogh do a little something for them was enough motivation for them to actually actively try to sell that individual's artwork. We don't really have anything like that anymore, and by don't really I mean we pretty much don't. And we have services like Etsy, we have services like Draw All Over Me, I think it's called, where an artist can submit their artwork, sell stuff, and the common misconception is that's all there is to it. But yeah, the whole, if you make less than X amount, you don't have to pay taxes on it, is actually only, according to my research, and I may be wrong, but it's only for income tax that applies. Whereas you still are expected to pay things like sales tax. And part of it is there's just not a single simple place like a federal website where you can go and see what you do and don't have to pay for online sales, partially because all the laws for online sales are still being written as we speak, or as I speak. Um, so things change, relatively speaking, quickly. The entire concept is my dream of reviving this art dealer mentality. But instead of accepting artwork as payment, the entire working machine that I hope to develop and build over the coming years is going to be a community effort. Is going to be a bunch of artists getting together, working together to self-promote, but while self-promoting, it will actually help other artists who are part of the revolution get exposure. So the artist that has 12,000 followers and has been doing art for a while and has developed this following might expose a member of their following to somebody who has 6 followers. Maybe immediate friends are the only people who have actually seen their artwork. And by getting that exposure, an amazing artist could potentially sell what they otherwise would struggle for a long period of time to even hope to sell, and then have to accept way less than something is essentially worth, just because they don't have the number of people seeing and being exposed to their work to find somebody who's willing to pay the price they feel their artwork is worth, and the person buying it feels the artwork is worth. Um, so this episode specifically is going to focus on what Vi.Ve the Revolution LLC hopes to be able to do for artists. I'll release another one shortly, probably next week, on what Vi.Ve the Revolution LLC hopes to do for the clients, the customers, the people wishing to buy artwork. Okay, so the method of getting exposure and helping artists profit is essentially twofold. First of all, the core of the revolution is going to, at least for now, be online sales. And this is going to be done through the company's website, which for now is an Etsy store, which there's no problem with that. Etsy actually has really low rates whenever it comes to how much they charge per purchase, etc., etc., etc. Listing, it's pretty cheap. So even if something doesn't sell, it's available for X period of time. And the thing that makes me really want to do this, especially once the revolution gets going and we're able to get our own personal site instead of just using an Etsy site, is if all of the printing is done in-house, if all of the preparation for sale, framing, etc., is done in-house, then a work can actually be sold, and instead of the artist getting 20% or less like a lot of companies do, or having, once again, to promote just their own store and be out all the time and effort that they're putting in to only get maybe a handful of views per day on their Etsy store, the revolution can group together, and if there's 20 artists all getting 5 or 6 views of the Etsy store every day, that's 100 people plus viewing the store every day who might buy something, whether it be from the artist that specifically referred to them to the store or not. The key to it is taking as little money out from the artist as possible, trying to keep it as close to what they would pay if they were selling themselves. So the only things that Vi.Ve the Revolution LLC is going to take out of any artist's paycheck from online sales is the tax, the sales tax that they would have to pay anyway, The material costs, anything that the Viva the Revolution LLC actually pays for materials, is going to be recouped after something sells. So if a item is printed in-house, then Viva the Revolution LLC will take that item's printing costs, not how much it would cost for a print shop to print X number of copies of it, but the actual material costs. As far as labor costs goes, if it's just something quick and simple, there's no reason to even factor in labor costs. Um, the shipping and handling would be covered by the buyer unless the artist really wants to just cover it themselves, in which case that would be taken out. There would be whatever fees, for example, the Etsy store takes out a small percentage on a sale and 20 cents per listing. That would be covered by Viva the Revolution LLC up until the point where the thing actually sold. The small amount to list the item would be taken out. And once the item sold, that would be removed from, let's say it was listed 5 times, then 5 times the list price would be taken out of the sale, so that Viva the Revolution LLC can pour that straight into listing more artwork. Hopefully, once the company website is able to get started, once we're successful enough to start a company website, then that entire little segment can go away. And then it'll just be a community effort to keep the cost for the site paid. We might even do ads or whatever. I mean, I would love to have a site dedicated to artwork and selling artwork have ads for things like Prismacolors or whatever art supplies, and instead of having to pay and having the artists having to pay out of pocket or from their sales to cover the cost of the store. The small amount that I would be taking out personally from an artist's sales would just be to cover the time that I spend, well, the time that I've already spent, for one, developing and doing all the paperwork and such, and the initial startup costs for an LLC, which protects an artist. I don't feel like going into all the details, but having an LLC, a limited liability company, instead of a sole proprietorship, which is what most freelance artists start off as, actually does offer legal protection from certain situations and things. The handling of the business paperwork, for example, the sales tax paperwork, etc., etc., etc. But the fee that I'd be taking out for this, that I will be taking out for this, is as small as possible. I'm not going to be taking out money so that I can eat. I'm going to be taking out money to put back into the business. The final thing that the business would be taking out is I intend to print custom business cards for all of the artists selling through Vi.Ve the Revolution LLC in-house to reduce the cost. Double-sided. One side will have the information of the company. The other side will be the artist's side to do whatever they wish with. This is going to reduce the cost of the business cards, and the amount that I take out is going to be as small as possible, and ideally only half at most of the actual cost. The cost of the business cards, not what somebody would pay for having business cards printed, but the actual cost of them. I'm still working on how to do this, but it's going to be done. And having a uniform back on all the cards for the Revolution will help identify that these artists are part of something greater than just, hey, I'm just this single little artist, I have 5 items listed on Etsy, please check out my store, which a lot of people might not find time for. But if everyone has cards and somebody at a trade show or a convention or whatever picks up 3 artists' cards, and finds, oh, they're all part of this single store online. Maybe it's worth my time to go check it out. Speaking of trade shows and conventions, that's the other side of exactly how I intend to market these artists and my own artwork as well. Um, the way that we would handle it is whichever artists are able to make it to the trade show or convention or whatever are the ones that will be selling there. And every other artist will benefit from any of the business cards handed out or picked up because of the unified online store, but the artists that are actually physically there contributing their time to it would benefit from having the actual FaceTime. Uh, and Viva the Revolution LLC hopes to be able to, for example, in a convention setting, eventually, once there's more artists, get multiple tables to satisfy whatever demand there is for the artists to actually be able to be there. By seeing these artists and getting FaceTime to talk to them, they have a chance to really promote their own personal style, their own personal works, and that could really significantly help boost their own personal sales. Um, the goal of going to these conventions and trade shows would be for Vi.Ve the Revolution LLC to continue spreading the word. The goal for the artist would, of course, be to make money for the artist. Because of this, because of the fact that there wouldn't be any shipping and handling, there wouldn't be any fees to pay, there wouldn't be anything other than just the cost of the table or tables, the cost of whatever passes are needed to get in. It would be exceptional to reduce the cost to the artist as much as possible. And that's really the biggest underlying goal, is to make sure that the artists are profiting as much as possible from their own personal works and from the time they spend promoting themselves and the revolution. Hopefully the idea will work and everyone will be able to benefit from the time they put in and from the time everyone's putting in. But just like any other community endeavor, if there are people not holding their own, not pulling their own weight, and over time they continue not doing so, it can only hurt the cause, and it can only hurt the company, and it can only hurt every other artist in it. So I will be the sort of people filter to determine who is serious about being a freelance artist and trying to make sure that only people who are going to contribute to the cause will be part of the revolution. There's a lot of factors that would go into it, and I wouldn't be making the decisions lightly or just out of hand. Um, Up until the point where the revolution starts to grow, pretty much we intend to take anyone of adequate skill that their artwork has a good potential for selling. As things go on, we might clamp and start restricting a little bit more, but ideally we'd be able to take in every artist who wants to be part of the revolution. So I think I'm going to go ahead and call this the end of the first episode of Real Talk. Speaking of, the Real Talk name is tentative, but I can't really think of anything better on short notice. If you have any suggestions, please leave it in the comments. I'm pretty sure there's at least one other site or multiple other sites. I don't really want to call it a video log because I don't intend to show my face while I'm doing it. It's just going to be me talking and doing whatever artwork. So here is to my dream, and hopefully the success of many artists to come. Have a good one. Hi there, I'm Vi.Ve, owner of Vi.Ve the Revolution LLC. I hope you enjoyed our work, and if you could, please comment, rate, or subscribe. Love to hear from you, and all that other YouTube goodness helps us out as we're trying to start this thing up. Have a good one.